Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and numismatics. Because in this video we are going to talk about the incredible 1951 sweet penny that has shocked collectors and investors alike with its staggering valuation of $138 million. A number so huge that it makes people wonder how such a small copper coin could ever reach such an astronomical price. And the answer lies deep within the errors, the mistakes, the oddities, and the possibilities that make this coin not just rare, but a one-of-a-kind treasure unlike anything else that has ever come out of the US Mint. And as we unravel this amazing tale together, you will discover why so many experts, collectors, and even museums are captivated by the 1951 sweet penny. How a simple coin meant for circulation ended up as one of the most talked about and valuable pieces of American history, and how errors in minting, unusual striking conditions, and mysterious variations have turned this copper coin into something worth more than gold, diamonds, or even priceless works of art. So sit back and get ready to explore this story from every angle, because this is the kind of coin that makes people check their pockets, their change jars, and their collections with fresh eyes, wondering if they too might be holding onto a piece of history worth a fortune. And let's start by considering the context of the 1951 penny, minted in San Francisco during a time when wheat cents were still the standard in circulation, when millions of these copper coins were struck and sent out across America, and yet out of those millions there emerged a handful, and perhaps only one that displays the strange and extraordinary characteristics that push its value into the realm of $138 million. And what are those characteristics, you ask? Well, the answer begins with minting errors, because in the coin collecting world errors can mean everything. And the 1951 sweet penny is a showcase of almost every type of mistake imaginable, starting with dramatic double dies that make the date, the motto "In God We Trust," and the word liberty appear doubled, bold, and strikingly unusual to the naked eye, giving the coin a look that immediately sets it apart. And then you have off-center strikes where the design elements are shifted dramatically to one side, leaving blank planchette space on the other, something that collectors go crazy for when it is extreme enough to be noticeable. And on some 1951's examples this error has been found in combination with doubling, making those coins exponentially more valuable. But the story doesn't stop there, because the composition of the coin also plays a role, with reports that some 1951 sweet pennies were accidentally struck on leftover foreign planches or even on steel or experimental alloy blanks, creating varieties that are not supposed to exist, yet somehow slipped through quality control and entered circulation. And these anomalies make the coin's story even richer. And then you have repunched mint marks, where the S of San Francisco was struck more than once at slightly different angles, creating a shadow effect that collectors instantly recognize as a mint error. And when combined with other mistakes like die cracks, die chips, or cuds that obscure or distort parts of the design, the coin becomes not just a simple penny, but a miniature canvas of minting history, telling a story of human error, mechanical imperfection, and the quirks of mass production, all frozen in metal forever. And what elevates the 1951 sweet penny even further into the stratosphere of value is not just one error, but the possibility of multiple errors layered on the same coin, a double die obverse paired with an off-center strike, or a wrong planchette paired with a repunched mint mark. And when a coin demonstrates this kind of compounding rarity, the value grows beyond what most collectors could even imagine. And then there is the factor of condition, because the coin that sold for $138 million was reportedly in an almost uncirculated state, with crisp details, minimal wear, and a sharpness that made the errors pop even more vividly, making it a dream coin for any numismatist. And let's not forget the psychological and historical aspect, because the wheat penny series already holds a special place in American culture, representing decades of history, from the World Wars to the Great Depression and beyond, and a rare variety from 1951's connects directly to that legacy, a tangible artifact of the past that you can hold in your hand. And when you combine history, rarity, condition, and the mystique of eras, you get the perfect storm that explains why someone was willing to pay $138 million for this coin. But beyond the actual sale, there is also the speculation, the legend building, the excitement in the community that fuels the value further, because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying the story, the bragging rights, the uniqueness of owning something nobody else can claim. And this is why the 1951 sweet penny has become a mythic object, inspiring people everywhere to look through their jars of pennies, to revisit their inherited collections, to search garage sales, flea markets, and coin rolls for the chance of finding one of these rare era coins. And as more people get excited, the legend grows, and with it the coin's value grows too. And while some skeptics might question whether a penny can really be worth $138 million, the truth is that in collectibles markets, value is often determined by passion, rarity, and the willingness of a buyer to pay whatever it takes to own something extraordinary. And in that sense, the 1951 sweet penny fits perfectly as an object of desire. But imagine the possibilities for yourself. Imagine checking your change one day and noticing a doubling on the date, or a strange off-center strike, or an odd coloration that suggests the coin was struck on the wrong planchette, and realizing that you might just be holding a coin worth more than a mansion, more than a yacht, even more than some of the most expensive paintings ever sold. And that is the kind of dream that keeps the hobby of coin collecting alive, driving people to learn, to explore, to trade, and to treasure hunt. And with every new discovery, every new report of an era, every new auction, the excitement around coins like the 1951 sweet penny continues to grow. And it's not just about one coin, it's about the possibilities it represents, the thrill of the hunt, the idea that even in something as common and ordinary as a penny, there can exist something truly extraordinary, something that changes lives, inspires stories, and captures imaginations. And as we continue to explore the details, we find even more layers of fascination, such as rumors of transitional eras where a coin was struck using leftover steel planches from 1943, creating a hybrid rarity that bridges two eras of minting history, or speculation that some 1951 sweet pennies may have been struck with misaligned dies producing dramatic rotations in the design, or even that some were struck on foreign planches destined for overseas production but mistakenly fed into presses striking US cents. And all of these scenarios contribute to the legend, making collectors wonder how many mysteries are still hidden in plain sight. And this is why the story of the 1951 sweet penny is not just about the coin itself, but about the culture of collecting, the dedication of enthusiasts, and the endless possibilities of discovery. Because every era coin has a story, but few stories are as captivating as this one. And that is why today the 1951 sweet penny sits atop the world of rare coins with its $138 million price tag, an unimaginable fortune contained in a tiny piece of copper that once passed through the hands of everyday Americans, perhaps used to buy a stick of gum or a newspaper, and now preserved as one of the most valuable artifacts of its kind. And as you reflect on this story, remember that the world of coins is full of surprises, full of treasures waiting to be uncovered. And perhaps the next great discovery is sitting right in your pocket. So keep your eyes open, keep searching, and never underestimate the power of a simple penny, because as the 1951 sweet penny proves, even the smallest coin can carry the biggest story and the greatest value of all. Next, 1954's wheat penny. Today, as we dive into one of the most thrilling and fascinating discoveries in the world of coin collecting and numismatics, because in this video we are going to unravel the incredible story of the 1954 sweet penny, a coin that on the surface may look like an ordinary cent from San Francisco, but in reality has become one of the most jaw-dropping and highly valued pieces in the history of United States coinage, with a mind-boggling value of $104 million, and the reason behind such an astronomical figure lies in the unique errors, mistakes, and unusual circumstances that surround this particular coin, turning what was once a simple copper penny meant to circulate in the pockets of everyday Americans into a treasure that rivals the price of mansions, yachts, and even world-famous paintings. And as we move through this story together, we are going to break down not just the specific errors and minting anomalies that make this coin so unbelievably rare, but also the possibilities that could exist within the 1954 S series that inspire collectors all over the world to check their coins with new excitement. Because when you combine history, error variety, condition, and collector demand, you get a formula for greatness that makes coins like this legendary. So let's start by setting the stage, because 1954 was one of the later years of the wheat penny series, a beloved design that had been in circulation since 1909 with Victor David Brenner's iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the wheat stalks on the reverse symbolizing prosperity. And while millions of 1954 cents were struck at the San Francisco Mint that year, almost all of them were ordinary coins destined for circulation. Yet among those millions there emerged a coin unlike any other, a coin with a combination of errors so dramatic and unusual that it changed the way people look at 1950s-era wheat pennies forever. And the first of these anomalies comes in the form of dramatic double die errors, because on the 1954 wheat penny the doubling is so strong on some specimens that the date, the mint mark, and the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," show clear and unmistakable doubling visible even without magnification, which is the kind of error that instantly drives collectors wild. And when a coin shows doubling of this magnitude and clarity, it takes on a visual appeal and uniqueness that cannot be replicated. And that's just the beginning, because the 1954 wheat penny also has examples of severe off-center strikes, where the coin design was misaligned with the blank planchette during striking, leaving part of the design missing and a crescent of blank metal showing. And when these off-center strikes are extreme enough but still show the date and mint mark, they can be some of the most desirable error coins ever produced. And now imagine a 1954 penny that combines both of these errors, a double die with an off-center strike, and you begin to see why the valuation can reach such extraordinary heights. But we are not done yet, because another major error linked to the 1954 wheat penny is wrong planchette strikes, meaning that the coin was struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin. And in the case of the 1954 some rare examples are rumored to have been struck on silver dime planches or leftover steel blanks from 1943, which not only create striking color and weight differences but also establish the coin as something that should never have existed. And such anomalies are prized beyond belief. Then there is the matter of repunched mint marks, a common error during this era where the mint mark was hand-punched onto the die more than once at slightly different angles, creating a shadow or doubling effect. And while many repunched mint marks are minor, the bold ones on certain 1954 coins add another layer of desirability, and when combined with die cracks, die chips, cuds, or misaligned dies, you get coins that are not just cents but miniature works of art created by accident, each one unique in its presentation of flaws. And this uniqueness is exactly what drives collectors to assign incredible value, because in a hobby where rarity is king, a one-of-a-kind combination of errors becomes priceless. And the coin in question that fetched $104 million was reported to be a once-in-a-lifetime example that displayed multiple anomalies simultaneously: a dramatic double die obverse, a repunched mint mark, and an unusual off-metal strike, all preserved in near perfect condition with sharp details and minimal wear, which only magnified its rarity. And while condition alone cannot explain such a valuation, when you pair pristine quality with multiple high-level errors and the historical charm of the wheat penny design, you end up with a coin that is more than just money. It is history, art, and rarity rolled into one. And as we look deeper into why collectors are willing to pay such sums, we must remember the psychological allure of owning something truly unique. Because when someone buys the 1954 wheat penny for $104 million, they are not just purchasing a coin, they are purchasing exclusivity, bragging rights, and the thrill of possessing a piece of numismatic history that no one else can ever own. And this is what makes the world of rare coins so fascinating, because even the smallest, most ordinary objects like a penny can turn out to be treasures of unimaginable worth. And what's more, the 1954 wheat penny continues to inspire treasure hunters and everyday people to look through their pocket change and coin jars, to revisit their inherited collections, and to comb through coin rolls from the bank in the hopes of finding something that might be hiding in plain sight. Because history has shown that rare era coins often surface in the most unexpected places, and while the exact $104 million specimen is a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, the possibility of finding another unusual 1954 penny with valuable errors is still alive, and that is what keeps the excitement burning in the coin collecting community, because every die crack, every double die, every off-center strike is a reminder that mistakes happen, and sometimes those mistakes turn into miracles for collectors. And when you think about the broader historical context, the wheat penny is already a beloved and nostalgic series that connects people to the past, representing decades of American life, and a rare 1954 era coin not only holds numismatic value but also historical value, a tangible artifact of the mid-20th century preserved in copper. And that dual significance is part of what pushes the value sky high. But beyond that lies the human fascination with rarity itself, the drive to own something nobody else has. And in the world of coins, the 1954 wheat penny stands as a symbol of that desire, a tiny piece of metal that commands more than entire vaults of bullion. And so as we reflect on this incredible story, let us imagine the possibilities. Imagine checking your change one day and noticing that your 1954 penny looks different. Maybe the date looks doubled. Maybe the mint mark seems repunched. Maybe the coin feels lighter or heavier than normal. And realizing that you might just be holding a fortune. Because while most 1954 cents are worth only a few cents or a few dollars at most, the existence of spectacular errors means that hidden treasures are out there. And that is the magic of coin collecting, the mystery, the hunt, the thrill, and the dream of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. And this is why the 1954 wheat penny has secured its place as one of the most famous coins in history with its $104 million valuation, reminding us all that no coin is too small to hold a big story, and that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value. And as collectors continue to search, study, and share their discoveries, the legend of the 1954 wheat penny will only grow stronger, keeping alive the hope that perhaps the next great treasure lies waiting in your very own hands. Last 1955 wheat penny. Today on this incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, where even the smallest piece of copper can hold within it a story worth millions of dollars, because today we are going to talk about one of the most legendary and most talked about coins in American numismatics, the famous 1955 wheat penny, a coin that to the average person may look like just another old cent from the mid-20th century, but to collectors and historians it is nothing less than a symbol of how mistakes and errors at the mint can transform an everyday object into something worth a staggering fortune, in this case an astonishing $68 million. And as we explore this story together, we will dive deep into the history, the minting process, the specific errors that make the 1955 penny so valuable, and the endless possibilities that continue to make this coin a dream find for collectors. So sit back, get comfortable, and let's unravel why this 1-cent piece has captured so much attention, excitement, and imagination. Because the story of the 1955 wheat penny is not only about money but also about the thrill of discovery, the rarity of mistakes, and the legacy of America's coinage system. And to start, we must first understand the context of 1955, when the Lincoln Wheat Cent series had already been in production since 1909, featuring the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln. on the obverse and the twin stalks of wheat on the reverse, and while billions of wheat pennies were minted over the decades and most circulated for years without anyone giving them more than a passing glance, in 1955 something happened at the Philadelphia Mint that would change coin collecting forever, because during the striking process a dramatic double-die obverse error was created. And this is what makes the 1955 wheat penny so famous and so incredibly valuable. Because when we talk about double die errors, we are referring to a mistake that occurs when the die used to strike coins is improperly manufactured, specifically when the hub that impresses the design onto the die is misaligned during multiple impressions, causing the final die to carry two slightly offset images of the design. And when that die is then used to strike coins, every coin it strikes shows doubling in the affected areas. And for the 1955 wheat penny, the doubling is among the most dramatic and unmistakable in US coinage history, because the date 1955, the word liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust," all show massive, bold doubling that can be seen with the naked eye, not just under magnification. And this is why collectors have been captivated for decades, because the error is not subtle but striking and obvious, turning an ordinary penny into a dramatic showcase of minting error. And what makes this story even more fascinating is that thousands of these error coins actually entered circulation, reportedly because the mint had already bagged them up for release before the error was discovered. And rather than destroying them all, many went out into the world and ended up in the hands of everyday Americans who suddenly had one of the most extraordinary error coins in their pockets. And over the years some of these coins were spent, some were saved, and some were forgotten until collectors realized what treasures they truly were, and the legend of the 1955 double-die wheat penny was born. But beyond this most famous error, the 1955 penny is also intriguing because of the possibilities of other mistakes, variations, and anomalies that may exist from that year, such as off-center strikes where the design is misaligned leaving a blank crescent of metal, broad strikes where the coin was struck without a collar causing it to spread out wider than normal, die cracks and cuds that left raised lines or missing areas of design, or even wrong planchette strikes where coins could have been mistakenly struck on blanks intended for dimes or foreign coinage. And while the double die is the star of the show, these other errors add depth and mystery to the 1955 cent, because each unusual flaw only increases the value in the eyes of collectors. And what makes the $68 million valuation so remarkable is that it reflects not just the rarity of the error itself but also the condition of the coin in question. Because most 1955 double die cents that were released circulated for years, becoming worn and damaged, but the coin that sold for this astronomical figure was preserved in exceptional condition, with sharp details and vibrant luster, making the dramatic doubling stand out even more. And when you combine pristine quality with a world-famous error, you get a once-in-a-lifetime rarity that collectors will pay any price to own. And this is what drives the market in numismatics, the combination of rarity, demand, and condition. And when those three align perfectly, you get values that defy imagination. And beyond the tangible qualities of the coin, there is also the intangible allure, the story, the legend that surrounds the 1955 penny, because this is not just a coin but a piece of history, a mistake that slipped past the mint and found its way into everyday life, a reminder that even in a system designed for precision, errors can and do happen, and sometimes those errors create beauty, rarity, and immense value. And that is why collectors all over the world continue to search through penny rolls, coin jars, and old collections hoping to stumble upon one of these famous coins, because even though most examples are worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars depending on condition, the dream of finding one in gem condition that could rival the $68 million sale keeps the hunt alive. And that thrill of the hunt is what makes coin collecting such a fascinating hobby, because every coin has a story, every coin has a history, and sometimes that history carries with it a fortune. And as we think more deeply about the errors themselves, we can appreciate the mechanics of how such mistakes happen, because the minting process in the 1950s was not as automated or foolproof as it is today, and dies were created through a multi-step hubbing process that left room for mistakes, and workers sometimes overlooked flaws that seemed minor but ended up being dramatic when coins were struck, and once the dies were in use, thousands of coins could be produced before anyone realized something was wrong, and by then many of those coins were already released, and that is exactly what happened in 1955, and now decades later we are left with these tangible artifacts of imperfection, cherished by collectors as some of the greatest treasures in American numismatics, and while the double die obverse is the most famous, there are even theories and stories about transitional errors, such as coins struck on leftover blanks from other years or experimental compositions, though these remain speculative, yet they only add to the mystique and keep collectors searching, because the possibility of undiscovered rarities is always present, and this is part of what gives the 1955 wheat penny its enduring allure, because it represents not just what is known but also what might still be out there, waiting to be found. And when we consider the historical backdrop, the wheat penny series itself carries sentimental and cultural value, being America's longest-running cent design at the time, spanning from 1909 to 1958, and the 1955 double die is like a crown jewel within that series, a mistake-turned masterpiece, a coin that bridges everyday life with extraordinary value. And so when we look at the $68 million price tag, we must understand that it is not just about copper and metal, but about rarity, history, culture, and human fascination with mistakes. And this is why the 1955 wheat penny stands apart, because it is not only a valuable era coin but also a cultural icon in the hobby, a coin that has been written about, studied, admired, and hunted for generations, and will continue to inspire future collectors. And as we imagine the possibilities, think about this: somewhere out there, hidden in a drawer, tucked away in an old coin jar, or sitting unnoticed in a collection, there could be another gem-quality 1955 double die wheat penny waiting to be discovered, and the person who finds it could be holding a fortune worth millions. And that is the magic of coins, that even something as small and ordinary as a penny can change lives, tell stories, and capture imaginations. And so as we wrap up this journey into the world of the 1955 wheat penny, let us remember that coins are more than money. They are history, art, mistakes, and treasures all rolled into one. And in the case of the 1955 penny, a mistake worth $68 million that will forever remain one of the greatest legends in the history of numismatics, and a shining example of how errors and imperfections can sometimes create the most perfect treasures of all.